Hi everyone. It's an afternoon when I'm shooting this video, so good afternoon. And today I'll be talking to you about the changes that finally have come to our knowledge for CLAT 2020. And these changes thankfully have been accompanied with sample questions to help us better understand what each section demands of us. And with this, we can be better prepared to help you prepare for your CLAT 2020 journey. I agree that the past 2 months have been, full of turmoil for most of you because you were following a certain pattern, and then after that, that pattern got, sort of very rudely shifted. But at this juncture, I would like to uh, tell you that the paper that has come before us, the sample questions, they look very, very promising. For the reason that for long, the CLAT exam has been dappling with his identity, whether it's a knowledge-based paper or is it a logic-based paper. And off and on, the vice chancellors, the senior professors at various national law universities have been very unhappy with the fact that students enter college with half-baked legal reasoning, legal knowledge, and and they have to be first made to unlearn whatever they have learned. So with that in mind, these changes were long expected. However, they have seen the light of day, and I would like to congratulate the CLAT convener, Professor Chauhan, and the entire CLAT committee for making this such a wonderful change and giving us a sample paper that looks extremely promising for all those students who deserve to be in national law universities. Because under the graduation program, higher education, more than anything else, involves reading a lot of material, making sense of what you're reading, doing your research, making your own research papers. And that is possible only when you come from a habit of, reading in the past. Knowledge can be attained at any point in time. And we've heard the CLAT committee say in their press conference that they really are not looking at any prior legal knowledge to begin with, because the aim is to get into law school and the aim is not to write an exam of a law school. So once you get into the law school, whatever legal knowledge is needed, you will get. So here I would like to differentiate between this section and what has been coming in the past. And I would like to make sense of what one needs to do with this new legal reasoning sample questions that one has been given, and also sort of deconstruct the notification for legal reasoning for all of you. Right? Why I'm particularly doing legal reasoning? Because this section has been completely transmogrified. It's in a new metamorphosed state. And the way to deal with this section is not what it was earlier. So that is why this section needs a special impetus and a special focus. And I want to lay to rest all apprehensions regarding this section. So let us first look at what the notification for the legal reasoning syllabus says. The legal reasoning syllabus rightly puts out that you will be reading passages of 450 words each, and they may relate to fact, situations, or scenarios involving legal matters. So the only legal part in the legal reasoning section is that the passage will be focusing on, legal topics, right? And public policy topics. However, please note that you are not required to have any prior knowledge of law when you come to do this section. This is mentioned, this has been said often on. If you have seen Professor Faizan Mustafa's YouTube video, he has also stated it categorically. And the last line says that you will benefit from a general awareness of contemporary legal and moral issues that are, grappling the nation. That's because once you get the sample paper and you put the two together and weigh in this with the sample questions, you realize that maybe, readability increases and you don't feel scared of reading about things that you've never read about, right? And when you read, in your mind, that picture of the right thing, the moral, the moral issue, the public policy issue, which is surrounding the nation, it's all in there. So when you read, that familiarity gives you an extra edge in that reading, and it helps you understand the central theme better. So this I'm going to show you when we solve the passages that are given, right? So each passage, there will be questions that will want you to identify and infer the rules. So please note, the first point here, identify and infer the rules and principles, is nothing but central theme of the given passage. Applying those rules and principles to various fact situations. So you have to do parallel reasoning and analogies over here. These are all critical reasoning questions. Point one, identify and infer the rule, is reading comprehension skills. And finally, understand how the change to the rules. This is just nothing but the inverse of the theme. So with the sample questions, we have been given, inverse questions as well. So if you decided this is the central theme, the next question asks you, okay, what if this were not to happen? So inverse of the central theme, and then what will be the course of action or inferences drawn from there. So all these pointers over here clearly state a comprehension-based critical reading and reasoning scenario that you have to use in legal reasoning. And when they say they are not testing any prior legal knowledge, trust me, when we solve the sample papers, you will know they are not testing any prior knowledge. Maybe you get a passage that you haven't read before. Still, you can read because all the answers will be there in the passage. So while they say that you will benefit from a prior reading of current issues, not reading the current issue will not lead to the fact where you are unable to do anything, because knowledge of that current issue outside of the given passage has not been utilized. Let's say that, okay, in the sample paper, I am saying that none of this is there, it's only reading and reasoning. And what if in the actual paper, they end up giving something and ask you a knowledge-based question? Then, my dear friends, we are anyways doing current affairs. There is a whole section called current affairs, which you have to prepare for. And in the current affairs, as stated in the notification itself, legal current affairs, general current affairs, international current affairs are going to be asked. So should there be a situation where there actually turns up a question which requires some form of knowledge, that will be anyway covered in the current affairs section. But from the sample paper, I can safely say, by showing you, by solving the questions, that nothing outside of the 450-word passage has been asked. It is a pure question paper made for central theme and inference-based questions, and using the inverse of the theme to scenarios, or using the central theme to parallel scenarios. These are all skills of reading and critical reasoning. So without further ado, I'm going to show you what I have just been saying. So when you read this passage about the Personal Data Protection Bill, naturally it's a current legal issue, and there is a bill that is there. It's a policy matter, privacy, and that has been in the news for very, very long, right? So let's start by looking at this. Seeking to protect the privacy of individuals relating to their personal data, right? So what is this bill? And when you read further, it says that rightly requires handlers of data to abide by globally accepted rules. So one might ask that, okay, do we need to know this bill, data protection bill? Or do we need to know about the globally accepted rules? Yes, you need to know about them, but not for here, but for the GK section. Here you are not being asked any questions related to the bill which are not given over there. And most of the questions given over there have been given from the point of view of the author, and you have to just apply the point of view of the author to the questions. So here you are answering from the perspective of the author of this passage. And this is something which you do in reading comprehension and CR. So it's an extension of that section. And it is not a surprise, because it was stated by the committee that it will be purely reading based. right? So you go on, there are problematic clauses in the bill. What are these problematic clauses? We don't have to know it for this passage. We don't have to know it for the questions asked at the end of the passage. All we have to know is that when I'm reading this data, am I able to understand what is happening? And do I get to follow the author's central theme? So my friends, the next question after you read this data, so it'll be helpful if you solve this and then listen to this video, that what is this author's central theme, right? So look at the second line onwards. All I'm doing is using RC skills. But by the end, it is clear it is not designed. So this is the third line of the passage. But by the end, it is clear it is not designed to deliver on the promise. From here, the author's stance is clearly visible. That he says that there is this data protection bill, but from this happenings now, by the end, it is clear that the design of the bill is not, the bill is not designed to deliver on the promise. All this. For even as it highly requires handlers of data to abide by globally accepted rules about getting an individual's consent first, it disappointingly gives wide powers to the government to dilute any of the provisions. So right in the first line, the author's central theme is clear. Then the author exemplifies it further by talking about this recent incident of the journalist, where a journalist complained, or the messaging platform WhatsApp informed us that some of the journalists were being spied on using this technology made by an Israeli company. So this talks about examples as well as a conspiracy theory about how an Israeli company was picked up, right? And then the passage further uses important people like Justice B. N. Krishna to further exemplify the fact how the government is abusing this bill. You know, the right to privacy bill, the right to data protection bill has been abused. So see the way the passage has been written. The author clearly mentions his point of view, gives examples to support it, and then analyzes it on a platform where he brings in outside voices like the one of Justice B. N. Krishna, and further adds weightage to his or her argument. So in the legal reasoning section, what we are doing is we are trying to understand the author's central theme or the author's main argument. That's a reading and reasoning skill, right? And how the author uses Justice Krishna's report and picks out the words best suited to show his central theme. Those are the words called Orwellian and Big Brother, right? So this shows us where we are headed with this section. Pure reading, nothing about the bill, globally accepted rules. No, I don't know. I know the bill, but I do not know the globally accepted rules and all. Like, I won't swear by them that, you know, okay, I know them by such, right? And maybe I'm not very well aware. I must have read it in the newspaper about Justice B. N. Krishna's report somewhere. But all I need to know is what the author has used over here. So taking this further, then when we come to the next line, now finally the report also recommended the government to bring in a law for the oversight of intelligence gathering activities, the means by which non-consensual processing of data takes place. So that means right now we are not using those laws, right? And further down, the author again says what the government has done is made a committee filled with government nominees. Can you see it? Made a committee right in the middle there, and they are major collectors of data. That means it is rendering the whole exercise of forming a committee useless, because again they will be giving a wide berth to the government to abuse this bill. So this is the central theme of the author. Now when we come to the first question, it is a theme-based question, right? And these views have to be taken only from the passage and not outside of the passage. So if you look at A, it is the opposite. B is the opposite of the author's central theme. It's easy for you to eliminate options A and B. A is the opposite, B is the opposite, right? C, the author is trying to tell us how this bill is extremely faulty and how this bill is extremely problematic because it's really not protecting its citizens. So answer here is C, right? D is something which says, since the bill gives sweeping powers, it is meaningless to reflect the idea of privacy in the bill. The author is not saying it is meaningless. In fact, the author is questioning these sweeping powers and saying that the bill is not doing what it is meant to do. So A, B, D are something that the author has said the opposite of. Therefore, our answer is C. And this answer we reached by reading and identifying the central theme of the passage. That's it. So you have to accept this fact whether you like it or not. Right? And of course, the committee has provided you the answers and all. And see, they have not used anything other than what is written in the passage in their answers. So you can see it here as well. So the rationale clearly shows that it's a reading-based exercise. Now, this is a fact-based question, right? Again, a reading comprehension exercise. It's a fact-based question. So when you solve the second question, write the first line is your answer. And again, you see B, C, D are opposite of what the government has said. The author, in fact, does not want the right to privacy exempt. The author does not want to protect the government agencies. The author wants to make the bill airtight, isn't it? So the author's main concern is how the government agencies are being allowed to misuse this bill. So that has been given in option A, and this, while we were solving the passage, we saw it. And again, when you read the rationale and all at home, when you solve this, you will see that the author, the answer explanation has used only the reference of the passage to answer this question. Third, suppose the bill provides a test of proportionality. Now let's look at this test of proportionality. This is a jargon. Do you need to know it? No, because it's clearly given ahead of you what this test of proportionality is. The act which infringes privacy must have legitimate aim and must be the least restrictive way of achieving that aim. You have been given this. Any prior knowledge of this is not needed because it's written. And then you have been given the hypothesis. The hypothesis says that if a government, if a journalist is known for her reporting on corruption in government agencies and the government decides to spy on her, will this meet the test of proportionality? It's a very simple hypothetical situation given after identifying or defining what the test of proportionality is. The act which infringes privacy must have a legitimate aim and must be the least restrictive way of achieving that aim. That does not mean you will just sit in someone's bedroom. I mean, you can do this thing yourself. It does not allow you to sit in someone's bedroom and keep looking at them and say, okay, this is in the name of national security, right? And then you have been given a simple fact situation. This is critical reasoning for you, ladies and gentlemen, where you have defined terms and now, then you have to show from the options what is according to the definition, or sometimes the question says this has been defined for you. Now choose an option which goes contrary to the definition. So here you have to see whether it is in sync with the definition. Now here comes in that moral aspect, which is less of a moral aspect and more of a common sense aspect. Even if you are not reading any newspaper and you do not hold a very radical right-wing viewpoint, you will know by looking at it that without checking the options that no, the answer has to be a no. You don't need a lecture in legal to understand that the answer to this has to be a no. So even if you're like mildly aware, which is not correct because you are preparing for GK for this very paper. Since you're preparing for a GK for this very paper and that GK is also now reading based, your moral compass of things around you naturally is broad. And whatever your leanings may be in politics, you know what is morally correct and what is morally not correct, right? So protest is morally correct, non-violent. However, police firing at protesters is not morally correct, So this distinction, if your views are not extremely clouded by all the incorrect information, this distinction can be made easily by anyone who is not even reading newspapers on a regular basis. So here you can see that the answer is no, right? And they have given the rationale for the answer. So when you read, let's read the rationale for their answer before I give the rationale for my answer, right? Because conducting a surveillance on a journalist to intimidate her is not a legitimate aim. This is because it provides a correct explanation for why the government's actions fail the test of proportionality as stated above. The test requires that an act that infringes privacy must have a legitimate aim, right? So surveying anyone of this nature is not a legitimate aim, especially with view to intimidate that person who is doing a sort of a, an objective or a right form of reporting. So this question, ladies and gentlemen, yes, requires the word moral aims, which we saw right in the beginning. And I have explained to you very, very clearly why this sort of a moral awareness is something which CLAT or no CLAT everyone should have. And how it is easy to have this sort of moral awareness, especially for CLAT aspirants, because they're anyway preparing for a GK paper. Then you have the fourth question given here. The author is concerned about the Constitution. This is a fact-based question and is given right in the last paragraph, as you can see. Last part, this fact-based question, DPA. So again, I don't think you need to worry about it. It's a fact-based question where the author has clearly given right in the end that how can it be fulfilled when everyone collecting on that committee is from the government. So naturally, the government would look like it is benefiting. So there's a conflict of interest, right? So that's clearly given over here. The DPA will be ineffective in regulating the government. So it's clearly fact-based, lifted from the passage, and hence easy to answer. So then the author takes a hypothetical situation which is contrary to the theme. Let's say the bill is amended and the government powers and the government's powers to provide exemption for its agencies are removed, right? Now, what will happen according to the author over here? Now, let's see what will happen according to the author over here. Naturally, so this is in sync with the author's theme. He wants the government powers to be removed, right? So because it is in sync with the theme, sorry, I said it's contrary. It's in sync with the government's theme. So if it is in sync with the government's theme, the author will believe that the bill lived up to its purpose. Whichever option says that will be your answer, and that's option A. So question 5, just like question 1, is a theme-based question. And for me, they are repeated questions. So this is not unseen or unknown in reading comprehension, where 2 or 3 theme-based questions are asked and all of them have the same answers. No outside knowledge is needed for these questions. So I hope this explains what I was set out to do. And if you look at the next passage, which looks at the drug price control order, now if you look at this passage also, and if you read where the author talks about government involvement in the drug price control order and shows what could happen and what could not happen. So this is a discursive passage, and the author first describes to you what happens most of the time. The drug prices are controlled by the government, and if the prices are controlled beyond a point, then there is a paucity of the drug only because of the costs involved, or sometimes the company stops giving that drug because it cannot work under that kind of pressure. Then the author discusses the question on whether the government should control the price. Clearly explaining in this paragraph how the Indian situation is different from other countries which are regulated under the state. Here, people have to pay from their pockets. So the government's aim and motivation most of the time is to reduce the price, which, however, the author explains can go against the government's socialistic principle. Why? Because once the price is capped to a level where the pharmaceutical company cannot even function, then comes in the problem of low supply of the drug, which is a bigger concern, right? So finally, the author does have a viewpoint, and in the end, he says, thus the government should stay away from dictating prices and allow the market to function. So author's viewpoint is of the most importance in this scenario, because in the author's viewpoint lie his theme and the objective of writing the passage. And you will see that we are using this information in our answers. Are we going to use any information outside other know-how of the duck price control order of 2013 or anything? Yes, we may use information for this, but not in this section, but in the GK section. So please understand, everything pertaining to laws, new laws, and policy matters will be asked in the GK section. Now, if you look at this question here, based on the author's argument, which of the following would be most correct, right? So do I have to study demand and supply or whatever? No, I have to give the central theme again. So please note how after every passage, the first question that the legal reasoning section is asking you is a theme question based purely on what you have read on the previous page. So based on this, the theme question, what is most this thing? Option A, hamper the development of international pharmaceutical companies is not given to us. Why will I have to know this? Maybe option A is a true fact. And probably if someone taught you this law or taught you economics or taught you what all happened in the current events, you know A is true. But will you mark A? No. A may be true. You may have legal knowledge or you may have current affairs knowledge, but you cannot mark A because in the passage it is not addressed. Please note that difference. Look at option B. The state should control the prices of medicine since it would also be manufacturing. Where does it say this? Again, unwarranted. Option C. The state should not control the prices since the market would determine the best price that has been given in the end. That's the author's viewpoint. The author gave his viewpoint after a long discussion right in the last paragraph. Wherever the author's viewpoint occurs, that becomes the central theme or the conclusion of the passage. So the author may discuss what is happening, why India is different from others, but that's not his viewpoint. His viewpoint is the central theme, and as you can see, C is your answer over here. So this class, where I'm trying to explain to you how legal is using only RCs and critical reasoning, is actually turning into an RC class where I'm telling you what a central theme looks like. But it's so important because now you're using this in another section of 35 marks, So as it tells you, every time you read the rationale, nowhere does the rationale say, okay, you should have known this information. It always shows you what in the passage says, right? And look at the last line. There is nothing in the passage to support A, B, or D. So let's assume all of A, B, and D are correct and you knew about them. Will that cloud your answer? No, it should not, because your answer has to be purely reading based. Now, this is the inverse that I was telling you about, the last point. So please allow me to go back to the notification and show it to you. Understand how changes to the rules or principles may alter their application to various fact situations. So this is what is happening in our question number 2 on the second passage. The inverse of the central theme has been given. Now, accordingly, you have to choose an answer. And we showed it to you in this, what is happening here, that there is a particular formula for cancer and only one person is producing it. Now what? So the author's conclusion says market should decide the price. Competition should decide the price. That was the last thing that he said. And that's what is his conclusion and the central theme. That government should not interfere. But what if there is only one company? There's only a monopoly. Now what you are doing is you are just applying the inverse of the central theme and looking for an answer using common sense and logic. So because there is a competition now, we cannot let the market control the price, because then the price will increase. There will not be anyone challenging that price or offering a better medicine at a lower price. So in that case, of course, the government has to interfere. And when you read the options, you will anyway reach that answer by elimination. Let's say you don't have this much moral compass or common sense. You do not know this. You think, oh my God, this is knowledge based. Then eliminate and reach that answer. Let's look at this, the answers given over here. Option A, the state should not control since it should allow the market to function, is absurd because there is no market. Option B, the state should control. Why? Now it tells you why. Look at the way the option has been worded, that you cannot miss choosing this as an answer. Because there is no competition. And because there is no competition, the market cannot control the price. Hence, the state has to intervene. Look at C. Will you ever mark C? Ban the sales of Formula A. I'm telling you that, okay, you argue with me and say, no, ma'am, you are wrong in calling this common sense and all. I agree. I accept your arguments. But when you look at the other options, why would you mark an option like C? I mean, that's bizarre. And D is another bizarre option. Now, state should manufacture it on its own. It's extremely far-fetched. An easier thing for the state to do would be to intervene and ensure that, okay, fine, you are in a monopoly position, but the price cannot exceed beyond this point. The state removes all price restrictions on essential drugs, right? In such a situation, based on the author's reasoning. Now, authors tells us that state should not interfere, let the market decide. So again, like the previous question, this question is in sync with the central theme, and again a central theme question. We showed you a previous question, which was a central theme question in the previous passage, where the question said that the bill is amended and the government power are all removed. So this was in sync with the author's theme. Here also the author wants the government to not interfere and the market prices to determine the price. So just like that question in the previous case, this question is also there. And just like there, our central theme was the answer. Here also central theme will be the answer, right? So what is the central theme here? Since competition in the market would eventually lead to the appropriate price being set. This is what the author has continued to say all through this while. So that's what's happening, right? B is out of scope. Ingredients have not been spoken of. C, ingredients to be supplied by the government has not been spoken of. So B and C are out of scope, right? And D says the opposite of the central theme, that the state should control. That means D believes that the market prices are not in a position to control the price. The state places a very low for the price for the sale of an essential medicine, which is lower. Again, it is a theme-based question. What is now going to happen? The author has already stated that in the middle of the paragraph, that if the pharmaceutical company cannot even function at that price, either it will curtail the medicine or stop giving it. So let's see which option says that. Right? A is again out of scope. People thinking the medicine is not good. That's not true at all. Companies supplying the ingredients would lower the price. Nowhere has the author said that if the state lowers the price, then everyone else will lower their price. As a result, the medicine cost will reduce. In fact, the author says that medicine cost will be more than the given price. In that case, the company will stop giving you the medicine, right? Then look at option C, again, bizarre, absurd, not discussed. Option D, as you read, you know it's given in the passage that the ability of the medicine is going to suffer, right? Then we will be worse off. So that's again given in your passage, right? So when you look at these questions, they are directly addressing the theme. At least 3 questions on the central theme or the conclusion of the author have come. That means now for legal reasoning, you don't need any extra preparation, but preparation on RCs and CR. And learn how to identify the theme, how to make analogies in sync with the theme, how to draw inferences in sync with the theme, and what will happen if I inverse the theme. So little bit of a broad horizon of moral and commonsensical answers has been used here. And from the sample given, what I have contended is that even that is not needed, because the other options are so weak, it is so easy to eliminate them. And the hindsight to it would be that if you continue to use legal knowledge here, you may end up marking an option which you know is true, but it is not being supported in the passage. So if you read the rationales of the CLAT committee, you will realize that they have only used the passage as a source for their answers. And this is what you have to learn to do. And this is something which you're already doing in critical reasoning. So be happy that same skill is extended in legal reasoning. And whatever knowledge and everything for all these passages that you need, these are all current affairs. that you are anyway doing for the GK section, but that knowledge will not be used here. You should use only your inferential skills and determination of theme skills to answer these questions to get the best result. And others are fact-based questions, as we saw, directly lifted from the passage. So it's a mixture of reading comprehension, central theme, which is a part of reading comprehension, and analogy questions, which is a part of critical reasoning. So with that, I would like to end this video, and I hope many of your questions have been answered. Everything written in the notification in the beginning, questions have been based. So see how beautifully the sample papers have been given. Every pointer given in the notification is used in the question to show you how in sync the sample paper is in with this syllabus. So all the points covered here have been depicted in the questions, and all these points pinpoint to a RC and CR based paper. So please use that skill, build upon that skill, and anyway you are doing GK, and I hope you're doing GK correctly. For the GK thing also, I'm going to release a video of our class and show you how GK has to be done now. So anyway you're doing GK, and that will be covered over there. But between a knowledge-based answer and a passage-based answer, you have to mark a passage-based answer. Otherwise, your answer will be incorrect. So please consider this video not just as a simplification of the syllabus and the sample paper given to you, but this video which is released for the benefit of all CLAT aspirants, so that they stray away from any other advice being given to them and any other interpretation being rendered of the given notification. Because the biggest interpretation is the sample papers provided by the CLAT committee itself. So match the two, they are in sync. So don't let anyone else persuade you elsewhere. And please focus on the right things and prepare well. In CLAT Possible classrooms, we all will be doing the legal reasoning section together, and we will continue to build and hone our skills in reading and reasoning. And you will see the benefit of it when you write the paper. So all the best to all of you. Please come to the classroom. I would like to see all of you, and we should prepare for this together. Thank you so much. You all have a good day.